please call the roll.
Councilmember Cousins?
Here.
Councilmember Fisher?
Yes.
Councilmember Knight?
Here.
Councilmember Michels?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Here.
Councilmember Chow?
Yeah.
Mayor Kia?
Here. Thank you. Item C on our agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from the regular city council meeting from September 24th.
I'll move those minutes.
Moved by Smith, thank you. Second by Todd, thank you. Mr. Smith, any comments on the meeting minutes?
Nothing.
None. Mr. Tell?
No, thank you.
Other council members, any comments on the meeting minutes? Seeing no hands in the air, all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes as presented, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you very much. And thank you for waiting so patiently. We're a little late starting, but we have some prearranged participation this evening. Representing the Dexter Community Fund, it's Julie Schumacher.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you. And what I should have just come at 6 o'clock and listened to the facilities committee. In your, my name is Julie Shoemaker. I'm a co-chair of the Dexter Community Fund for anyone who doesn't know me. I also happen to serve on the Dexter School Board. I wanted to speak to you about the Dexter Community Fund, give you an update on it, and also talk about the needs assessment that we conducted in August, and then how the Dexter Community Fund is used that information. So you all in your packet, I think, have a copy, right, of the needs assessment results, as well as our grant-making priorities. So let me just start by giving you a brief background about the Dexter Community Fund and where things currently stand. I know I spoke to this group 2 years ago, but perhaps there's someone new on the City Council since that time. So the Dexter Community Fund was established in 2014. We're a geographic field of interest fund with the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation. And the fund is dedicated to enriching the quality of life within the Dexter community, which we've defined as the city of Dexter and the surrounding area that makes up the boundaries of the Dexter Community School District. But we're not affiliated with the school district in any way. We have a local advisory committee of about 10 to 12 individuals that are on rotating terms, 3-year terms. Paul Cousins was one of the founding members of the Dexter Community Fund. The fund is an endowment, which means the principal is invested in perpetuity, and it's the interest that gives back grants to the community. In that way, the fund really, it lives forever. Our goal is to raise $2 million by 2020. That will allow us to give back grants to the community of about $80,000 a year. That's on par with the Chelsea Foundation, and in the spirit of healthy rivalry. And they give back $80,000 to $100,000 in grants each year to their community. We would like to be able to do the same for the Dexter community. We currently have $350,000 in current assets and future pledges. So thank you to the community for their investment in the fund. In 2017 was the first year we made any grants to the community. We gave 4 grants. They were given to the Dexter Area Historical Society for the renovation of Gordon Hall, the Dexter Senior Center, Faith in Action, and His Eyes on the Sparrow. When we thought about grant making for 2018, we really wanted to get a better pulse on the needs of the community. And so we conducted a community needs assessment. In August, we extended invitations to community leaders from the city of Dexter, the surrounding townships, local churches, school district, sheriff's department, local nonprofits, and then also local funders. And we had a total of 30 representatives that participated on a Saturday in August. And then we also had 4 people who couldn't be there submit their input prior, which then we considered that morning. The process worked that everyone had an opportunity to think of individually of what they thought the key needs of the community were. And then all those ideas went up on newsprint, and through 3 successive rounds of voting, we narrowed it down to the top priority needs. And so you can see that in your handout. I would encourage you to look beyond just the items that made it to round 3, the top priority. There were many great ideas. You can look on round 2. There were wonderful ideas, but you know, each round you might have only had 3 dots that you could put on newsprint, and maybe there were 5 things you really wanted to vote on. So it really forced people to go to the top priority needs. As you can see, through those 3 successive rounds of voting, long-term funding for the senior center was number 1. And it was interesting because this group was not in any way stacked towards seniors. It was really a broad representation. And then mental health services was number 2. Affordable housing, number 3. And a viable location for faith and action, realizing that they've been in multiple locations, hard to find, and needed to be more visible in the community. Vocational technical programming for our students. Improved traffic flow through downtown Dexter. I'm sure you all have heard that, have struggled with that. Support for seniors and those with disabilities who are homebound. Completion of some of the trails around our community, the Border to Border and the Waterloo Pathways Initiative, a teen center. And there was actually, if you look on the previous rounds of voting, there was quite a bit related to teens that had been raised. And then again, even though they only had 1 vote or even didn't have a vote on the final round, they still were significant to have made it to this 3rd round, which were access to the Huron River, non-motorized and public transportation, funding for Gordon Hall, and then parking for the Border to Border Trail. So I wanted to share that with you because while we conducted the needs assessment to help guide our grant making, obviously many of these issues are much bigger than what the Dexter Community Fund on our own can tackle. Many of them will require collaboration among units of government. They might require additional funding and bringing together diverse parties to really tackle those issues. So from that, we on the Dexter Community Fund Advisory Committee, we looked at those areas and then used them to develop a list of what our grant-making priorities would be for the next 3 years. When we were founded, our mission states that we can award grants in 7 different areas. And those are arts and culture, community improvement, environment, health and wellness, human services, senior services, and youth and education. I personally think just about anything could fit into one of those categories. But taking the needs assessment data, we then prioritize our grant making priorities. And so number 1 are programs and services for seniors. 2 is mental health services for youth and adults. 3 is improved outdoor recreational opportunities. And this could even go beyond the Border to Border or the Huron Waterloo Pathways Initiative. 4th were services and programs for teens. 5th are services and programs for the homebound. And 6th are programs to enhance the arts and culture, which is where Gordon Hall and a number of other programs would fit. And so using that, this year with the Dexter Community Fund, we had our grant application period closed at the beginning of September, and we received numerous wonderful grant applications. We then use these priorities to make our grant decisions. We have not yet announced them publicly. The award letters are just going out as we speak. It was very difficult because we're still relatively in our infancy, and the way it works is we can award, the amount we can grant is based on a 12-month rolling average. And so we were just founded 4 years ago. So, 4 years ago, we have fund balance of 0. And so when you do a 12-month rolling average, what that will also do is smooth out the market fluctuations up and down. But we still have a relatively modest amount that we're granting, and we hope eventually to get to the point that we are granting the $80,000 a year. I guess I wanted to just, in closing, if you are interested in more information about the fund, and I do have some materials I can leave with you, it really is a way to invest in this community and create a lasting legacy for all of us, and to do the kinds of things that perhaps aren't being met elsewhere in the district. We do have a website, which is dextercommunityfund.org. We have a Facebook page, and we have a newsletter that we send out twice a year via email. Our board is we are all volunteers. We have no operating funds for the Dexter Community Fund. All the efforts we do are given through in-kind sponsorships and contributions from local businesses who help us with various things. So the newsletter goes out via email because it's more cost effective. If you're not already receiving that and you would be interested, you could pass along your email address perhaps to Courtney, and she could get it to me. I guess I wanted to just open it up if anyone had any questions for me. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Tell.
You said the grants are once a year?
Yes,
And what are the qualifications to apply for a grant?
I would be either a nonprofit or it could be a local unit of government.
It could be a local unit of government. Okay. Have you ever considered more than $80,000, or just because it's only 4 years old, you haven't got to that point yet?
But $80,000 would be what we could grant if we had assets of $2 million. So that's our goal. Sure, if we have assets of $3 million, we'll grant out more.
The reason I'm asking is just because before you stepped in, we were talking about facilities. And there was a lot of concern about seniors, theater, mental health.
Absolutely.
What else we got? Long-term funding. I mean, I just went on and on this thing. This is all stuff that I'm sure the council members and myself share a concern about. And if we're going to upgrade and bring in certain, I see conference centers and human services, senior services,
Right.
try to make this a community center as opposed just to a civic center.
Right.
Could we count on you, or would you be willing to listen to our pitch? Or
I think the Dexter Community Fund would be happy to support initiatives that improve the community, and again, that fall into one of those categories. But what you mentioned, and there was a footnote on the summary of the needs assessment, which, as all these ideas were discussed, one individual mentioned that the idea of bringing all these things together in a community center would make sense. So there's need for seniors, a place for seniors, a teen center. One of the ideas that didn't make it to the final list, but I think has a lot of merit to it, is folks want a one-stop shop where they could go to get direction of services available. So it might be a social work position that is available via phone line and might also be available at this kind of community center. So if someone has a vet or is a vet and wants to figure out how to access that, or someone has a family member who's homebound and doesn't know what services are available, or there's mental health issues, it would be someone who could help navigate the system for Dexter residents. And so envisioning, and then there was a need for more meeting space. That also came up. I think that probably made it through round 2.
Yeah, looks like
and
it.
the idea of a community center under one roof that brought all these things together was one of the ideas suggested that I think has a lot of merit.
yeah, I think it'd be this is just me. I think it'd be a big benefit for anybody who moved into the area that they could call one phone number and be transferred that department, or be able to talk to somebody instead of having to go to Ann Arbor or Jackson or Chelsea or wherever, Saline. At least get a little bit of direction from here, and then community center basically. So I don't know if there's enough room for I might be overstating my capabilities here, but I'm always looking for revenue and input.
Any other questions? Julie?
Ms. Knight?
Dexter Community Fund is not a nonprofit?
We are, the Dexter Community Fund is housed at the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation. Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation is a nonprofit community foundation.
So it's a
But we-
501c3?
501c3. The advantage for us is we initially were trying to determine whether we should be our own foundation. The advantage is they've been around for more than 50 years. They manage about, I think it's currently about 75 million in assets. They have a track record, they manage the investment, so we don't have to do that, but we raise the money locally, and then we make the decisions in terms of the grants for the community.
So if I were want to make a donation, let's say I want to donate something to Gordon Hall, why would I want to make a donation to the Dexter Community Fund rather than directly to Gordon Hall?
You could do that to Gordon Hall. I mean, if that is the sole entity you want to donate to, and of course it's a worthwhile, the Dexter Community Fund will meet the needs of the community, whatever they are, in perpetuity. And so none of us here know what those needs are in 10, 20, 50 years when we're gone. And so it is flexible under these broad categories of grant making. So at some point, Gordon Hall might be fully rehabilitated and renovated, and there may be other needs in the community. And so the Dexter Community Fund is a flexible vehicle to do that. And so I do have one other handout I can give you all. And so, you can donate appreciated assets. There's all kinds of ways that you can donate to the Dexter Fund.
And the advantage is it's an endowment, so that $1,000 you give will be giving forever.
Right, there's actually an example in this brochure I would give you, that there was a fund that was established in 1981 with $448,000, and since that time it has awarded almost $1.5 million in grants, and the current fund value is at $1.5 million. And so the money, we know the idea of compound interest, it just gives in perpetuity. It's a way of making a lasting legacy for any of us. So, and I guess one last thing I would just offer, that as the Dexter Community Fund, we are happy to convene community conversations if that makes sense. If we ever want to open this up to a larger community conversation about the needs of the community or bringing together different entities. We are initiating conversations with the other funders in the Dexter community, which are the Dexter Lions, the Dexter Rotary Club, and 5 Healthy Towns, because I think of Dexter as like a small sandbox, and we all work in that area, and perhaps by joining together or by deciding we're each going to specialize in different areas, but to begin those conversations so we can best meet the needs of the community. Any other?
Appreciate your work on behalf of that.
Sure.
entity.
And I'll just, Courtney, I will give these to you if you want to. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time tonight.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're down to item E, which is approval of the agenda. There is a little bit of additional information that we're going to have.
With additional information about the water tower.
Yes. Yep.
How's that?
Perfect. Moved by Fisher, seconded by Smith. Thank you both. You can share mine. All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye, please. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. We have no public hearings this evening. So we are down to non-arranged participation. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to communications. We had 3 communications in the packet. Our upcoming meeting list, the signed calendar, and a resolution from the County Board of Commissioners. Does anybody have any questions on the communications? communications? Seeing none, our first report this evening is from our Public Services Superintendent. Welcome, Dan.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
A 2-week report. And also I have just one update tonight. So I'd like to start with questions on my report.
Maybe we'll come to some. Why don't you start with your updates?
Last council meeting, I talked to Seabrow with Grandview, and they were going to try to get asphalt done last week. Now they're looking at the middle of October to do the finishing asphalt. I talked to them on Friday. So hopefully that works out for them before summer is gone, like it was today.
Maybe competing.
And then we did get our early salt delivery. We got 150 tons today, so we're ready for
Whatever.
I don't even want to talk about it. I don't know if everybody's seen, Courtney sent out an email and we're going to get the asphalt done on Dan Hoy and the industrial park entrance tomorrow, so weather permitting. They had a hard time today. They had blowers down there trying to dry it and they couldn't get it dry, so they ended up leaving.
Last chance for questions for Dan on the report. Mr. Smith, thank you.
Toward the bottom of the DPW, installed post at Heronview Court. What kind of post?
New street sign.
Thank you.
I believe the one that was there was in a bunch of trees. And so they moved it to a place where it wasn't in a mess of trees, so you could actually read it.
The wastewater project's doing well. They're still doing demo work down there.
Really?
Yeah, I talked to Courtney this morning. I want her to come down Wednesday, Thursday to check out all of the demo work and the big hole we have in where the tertiary filters and the screw pumps used to be. So.
Mr. Tell and then Mr. Cousins.
Can you elaborate on dosing polymer twice a day to combat we're settling?
We have Nacardia and our secondary clarifiers and our secondary treatment. And we've had, when the weather changes from warm to real cold, it changes the temperature of the water, which gives us a settling problem down there. So the polymer we throw on top of the secondaries, and we'll take the Nacardia and it'll sink it down for us. So we can take in the solids off the secondaries and put them where they need to be in the digester.
Is that something we're addressing in there?
That's exactly what we're addressing with the tertiary filters. Yeah. And with the sand filters being down now and out of commission, we're going to do everything we can do to meet the requirements of the DPU. We end up, I think, buying like 1,000 pounds of polymer. Something actually, I mean, we have had this problem throughout the years when the temperature changes, but now we want to make sure that we have enough product to get us through the sand filters we need now.
All set, ready?
Thank you.
Mr. Cousins.
Did the gas tank get moved? Are we functional on that now yet?
Absolutely, and they've been using it now since October 1st, actually.
Thank you.
And if you do talk to Chris, I got a new phone a week ago. And when we got the new phone for me, I didn't know that I hadn't been receiving. I gave Chris from Wade my personal phone number, so if anybody had any questions, well, they had called 2 or 3 times. I didn't get them for 4 days later after I got my new phone. They finally came up on the messages, so I called and apologized for that. But
It's straightened out now.
it's straightened out now. Everything's working fine.
Any questions for Dan? Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Next up is our Community Development Manager. Michelle, how are you?
I'm fine. How's council this evening?
Good.
That's a little weak, but I'll take it. You are well. You're just concentrating tonight. All right, you've got my report in front of you, and before I go into the updates, do you have any questions for me?
Why is this 150 designation of upland disposal through the state and so difficult?
it requires detailed piecing together of the history of the different properties. Like I put in the, and this is one of the updates, the letter went out to DEQ today. We identified the 060 parcel as an oversight. It should not have been included in this declaration of restrictive covenant because the sedimentation area is within, excuse me, a portion of Mill Creek Park that had to do with when the dam removal was done. And so it's west of Jefford Street. The 060 parcel is east of Jefford Street. It takes in a portion of Jefford Street, but it has nothing to do and never has had any portion within the sedimentation area. And so it took time to pull the different pieces of legal descriptions and surveys, et cetera, together to be able to paint a picture for MDEQ as to why we were asking for this and to prove that it had not, it shouldn't have been included.
Is that going to be I'm sorry. Is that going to be a difficulty to the developer or us in the future, or is this going to
If
fail?
MDEQ doesn't allow the restriction, there are going to be ramifications that the developer probably won't like because they will then have to
Show a remediation.
disclose, no, they don't have to remediate anything. They'll have to disclose to the residents purchasing property that one little piece that we swapped out, it is now part of 150 Jeffords, is part of this restrictive covenant. So,
Ms. Fisher?
Michelle, when you have to dig this information up and put it together, are you the one that then is required to send this letter on, or are they taking care of that themselves? How much of your time does this involve, and if it involves your time, how do you do that? Do you charge that back, or where does that go?
So to do it all together is really a collaborative effort between myself, excuse me, Sean had a hand in it because one of the surveys from very early on, Wade Trim had done. The developer themselves did a complete survey of the 060 parcel, and so we've got the sketch, we've got the legal description, they signed it, they sealed it. Our attorneys, the developer's attorneys, so costs incurred by consultants, i.e. our attorney, that gets passed through to the developer. It is a significant amount of my time, but that is part of what I do anyway. But it's not so overburdensome that I couldn't get anything else done because of it. It just took time to put it together.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Knight?
I'm looking at the two maps. There's definitely a difference in the amount that's in the 060 parcel. And why is that?
So, if I understand it correctly, the first one that was approved by you
On page 29.
on page 29, shows the 060 parcel going all the way through, and there's this little portion of the sedimentation area.
Right.
Well, as it turns out, the sedimentation area needed to be re-described.
Oh, okay.
And so there were a couple of things that had to be updated on this one. On the second one,
Page 36.
page 36, the sedimentation area is accurately described, but for some reason, the survey showing 060 went all the way to the water's edge. And like I said, Sean was very helpful because Wade Trim, or somebody at Wade Trim had done this. And he was able to not describe it, but depict it so that I was able to take that information and then provide proper exhibits to MDEQ to explain why we needed to have that parcel taken out.
So the second one,
The 060 property actually ends right here.
right, I see that.
So this part is not on it. The real line is like here, but it wasn't described at that in the early goings when there was Mill Pond and the water's edge came all the way up. So since there's been a lot of lot combinations and then redelineation of lot numbers at the county, we created a map for Michelle that showed the old parcel numbers with the new on top of it, and along with the boundary of the sedimentation area.
Okay, so this is the one on page
You don't actually
36
see-
is more accurate.
You don't see the one that she sent.
Right, we'll include that when we do the item to change the district.
Right, you'll get that.
You don't see the one that clarifies it
Okay.
at this time.
Okay. So now for my updates,
Well, one of the other things, Julie, just to answer your question, if I remember correctly, when this was done this way,
Right.
we were still negotiating the final purchase of that property on the corner. Okay, because when the project started, we realized we didn't actually own that, and then bought the property from the gas station that is across Jeffords. So then it made sense when we created the upland area where the, the higher area where the circle, Dexter circle and over. You can
Yeah, when I
even,
was only looking at this little
Yeah.
square thing that's in the
That's
old
why it
six-hole
moved,
parcel,
though.
right?
the contractor moved it is what I'm getting at.
Got it. Thank you.
so you're familiar that there's a pre-app meeting for the revised sketch of what A.R. Brower calls the Central Park project. That is going to happen on October 15th, excuse me, before the ZBA meeting here. But just after, literally just after we got this packet done, Mr. Campbell brought in his revised concept for the 7960/56 Grand Street parcels, that little L-shaped infill. And so we're looking at October 29th for that one, and that would be before the special PC meeting, and it would be at the library. I've sent the information out to the committee on that, and I don't remember everyone off the top of my head who was in that committee, but I'm hoping to have that confirmed by the end of this week. So. The last thing, I've been working with our CAT team representative, the Community Assistance Team through MEDC, to try and find a date that we could set up a meeting with Norfolk to talk about the different programs that we might be able to tap. And we've come up with a date of October 25th, and so I've reached out to Norfolk to find out if they're available on that day. That would not necessarily be a date that the 3045 Broad Street Committee would meet at the same time, because it's an informational one with the developer, so.
It's with staff.
Right, it's with staff.
Okay. I'm not ready to tell them.
But I am hoping that that same week, we'll be having that meeting with the Norfolk, with Norfolk and the 3045 Broad Street Committee. And that's all I've got, unless you want to continue to talk about things.
Mr. Cousins?
I'm only trying to figure what I filter out what I hear, okay?
Okay.
So what I've heard that we delayed a number of meetings for the committee, and now I see where we have a description here that we have a lot of money needed to remove the poles and the relocation of those. I see that the cost estimates were 60% higher. That's a lot higher than any of the construction costs that we've been hearing about.
Right, but you have to realize that the estimates were done based on, Sean, help me, engineers' standards, correct, if I remember right? Not on actual construction estimators. So Norfolk is going with some construction estimators to see if the prices come down and not be 60% more than they anticipated.
So I guess the question was, is any of this project on shaky ground?
I don't think so yet. I
When
didn't
when
get
does
that-
yet, when does yet end?
When does yet end? Let's see what happens after we have the meeting where they bring in their pro forma and we start to talk about actual construction estimate numbers. So I would presume that we'll have a better understanding after the meeting toward the end of the month. I didn't get the impression that it was on shaky ground.
Okay.
We did not get anything from Norfolk saying that they were concerned or that they were looking at, oh, yeah, we're scared. You know, it didn't come off that way.
All right. Thank you.
Paul, can I answer that a little bit further?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, when we met last here on the 24th of September, the plan was to meet as a 34th Yard Broad Committee on Wednesday, the 26th. On Tuesday afternoon, about 4 or 3 or something in the afternoon, they called Michelle and said, we're not really ready to meet with the committee, but we'd like to share where we are. So Michelle was left with a decision on what does that mean. Convene the committee that they weren't ready to meet with, or bring them in. And so Courtney and Michelle and I met with Jim, Mark, and and Sean from Norfolk. And they said that they had through Quinn Evans, an estimate of the project done based upon square footage and some general construction credits. They used means, if anybody knows what means is a standard way of estimating. They didn't talk to local builders. And the estimate that they got for all 3 buildings at one time was not broken out into the 3 buildings. It was basically combined. So they're doing some additional checking. They are engaging people who are more active in actually building buildings, if you will. You know, because Norfolk is a general.
Yeah.
They hire somebody ultimately to do the different components of the work. So they're trying to pin down the cost estimate. Okay, but I mean, if I remember the numbers without trying to be exact, they had shown about $46 million in cost across the 3 buildings that we all saw the concept of in July, early July. Okay, that was site cost, that was the first and second buildings with the underground parking structure. They had just gotten from, or received, I should use that, so received from DTE the estimate that's in here that Michelle has for pole relocation of the stuff that would remain on Broad after the DTE substation is taken down, you know, which is in the process of. They hadn't really had a chance to digest that and figure out the thing for that. So they're still plugging in. At the same time, they also did a revenue projection. They took the number of units that they had, okay, residential and commercial in all 3 buildings, from all 3 floors of building 3, plus the residential in buildings 1 and 2, and using dollars per square foot. It was not quite exact because they don't have a lot of data points. They have a lot of rumors about that. 150 sold 11 spots.
Yeah.
And Brower's got 40 units filled, or whatever it is over there. As soon as some of those data points hit, they'll have a better idea of what they think they can actually sell, what things are going for. So they've used some area estimates, I think, from local real estates, their experience / Ann Arbor, which we know we're not Ann Arbor. And generally those revenue projections range from, I think it was between $260 to $300 a square foot in terms of cost to build. Okay. So when you
260 to 300%.
Yeah, so when you multiply that all out, there was roughly 100,000 square foot of, what'd you say, of residential space and 46 square feet of retail. The revenue projection came up like 40 or 41 versus the raised
46.
versus the 46. You're making it difficult.
He's got a fan. He's fanning himself right in front of us.
No, this is why they do it. So, they acknowledge that wasn't the message they wanted to show. That would show that it doesn't work. right? If they just stopped, but they don't believe it doesn't work.
Okay.
Okay, and therefore they asked, so they wanted us to know where they were at. They didn't leave any of those sheets of paper with us because they were still working through
Right,
it.
okay.
But they're very, according to Michelle, I mean, they were very organized in their presentation of the information, but they needed more time.
Right.
All right, thank you. I haven't heard anything other than what I've gotten from you people and Michelle.
And as it ties into the previous discussion that we had on facilities, and what I indicated at the last meeting, we did ask them, so, talk to us, what do you think about if we wanted City Hall to go in that area? We've asked, they're required before, that's one of the options that we don't have a lot of data for. Building 3, which is the one off the park, has a first floor and a second floor that are both about 11,000 plus or minus 11,500 square feet, which would both fit city offices and police, for example. If you bought the whole floor, if one was condominiumized and you bought the whole thing. So I do think it's an interesting data point to talk about. At some point in time, we don't have a floor plan or a sketch, but we've been talking about 7,000 square feet for offices, and what did David mention today? 2,400 square feet for police. If we use all that, although I think I heard Sergeant King say they don't really need that much space when she was here before.
1,300, I think.
But whatever the number is, the sum of those two numbers plus common space fits within the 11,000. I think it'd be really cool to consider what owning one floor there would be, especially given our downtown development plan and, the idea of expanding that way and being an anchor tenant. We could really help spur something there that's affordable, and the benefits of moving the police away from the fire station is it gives more space at that site, gives more vehicle space out in front of that site, less cars parked around that site. There's a lot of benefits to it, but it's just a high-level concept at this point with I don't have one thing to show you other than what was in the facility packet that showed where Building 3 is. But they know that we expressed interest and they're willing to work through that, and I think we'll, within a number of days, I don't know, weeks, have you heard from them since? I haven't.
No, I didn't. I didn't email back yet. But
I had hoped to have a drawing or some updated information from Sean, but he didn't have it through today, so I don't know. But the goal is to get the committee back together with that group next. Not to have meetings like that. That was a last minute thing, so. Hopefully that provides a little more information to you, and I hope that answers your question.
All set, thank you.
One of the things, Paul, one of the things frankly I would like to figure out if possible, before they get rid of the substation and do all this stuff on the poles that they're doing, it would be awesome if we could figure out what the ultimate alignment was for Broad Street there, so that when they put the new poles up there, we're not paying twice for the same thing. That would be the best coordination activity we could come up with next, because we know they're proceeding down the line of designing those upgrades to the existing poles and figuring out which ones can come down. But it would be great if we could figure out where Broad Street was going to fall there, and then the new poles could just be put up one time at one cost instead of paying twice. But we're not there yet as a team. Jim, you had your hand up when I jumped in.
Michelle, on the 150 Jeffords, in the planning meeting, you gave an update about the construction screen.
Oh, yes, thank you. So, I'm sorry I have nothing to show you right now, but I can tell you what Gunther is working on. You've noticed that they've reversed the screen all the way around in different places. They've also measured, and what they have said that is showing on both the Jeffords side and the portion around the curve, Jeffords Forest, it doesn't exceed 100 square feet. And what I told them is you need to provide me with a diagram of the sign, so they're working with their sign company to dimension so that we can go out and we can check it. Excuse me. I had hoped that was going to be in on Friday, and I got a call from Natalie saying that they are still working on it, that the sign contractor submitted something, but he misunderstood what they were looking for, so it didn't provide the information that we needed.
Not related to that, but Sunday morning I was heading down Forest toward the park, and the gate on their fence at 10 o'clock in the morning was wide open. Yeah. I don't know whether it came undone or somebody didn't lock it or what.
We'll find out. And we'll make sure that they know that they're going to have to be more diligent and keep it closed. And if they didn't leave it open, then perhaps somebody got in there. So, okay, I'll follow.
Because I didn't see anybody around.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting me know.
Did I miss a hand anywhere? All that? Other questions for Michelle? Thank you very much, appreciate it. Next up, I think, is our city manager report.
I just had a few updates. We actually got some good news about that Tyndall case, the phosphorus case that's been going on for like 15 years. The circuit court judge, the Washington County Circuit Court judge ruled that the DEQ did violate the terms of their agreement with the communities by not doing a new Tyndall like they said that they would. So they gave them 60 days to formulate a plan to actually do it. So I mean, obviously that can be appealed like everything, but at least that's the first time a judge has actually said that agreed with our side. The state had agreed they would do a new one and then they never did it. They backed out of it, so.
Stop the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, right. It's kind of surprising. It's good.
Just
I mean,
kidding.
it is true that they did say that. And honestly, I mean, this case has been going on for so long, I would think that they needed to do a new one anyway. You know, now they're probably not doing it just to not do it. So that was good. Our health insurance increase for 2019 is only 1.34%. So that was good news as well. That was very low. I think we budgeted at least 5, so that's helpful. I included in my report all the information about Raise Award, of course, so congratulations for being honored by the association. And a surprise, award.
Actually, that one was pretty surprising.
Yeah.
So predictable.
Cool.
Nothing more, guys.
The compost pickup item, one of the main articles, I guess, for the newsletter is a plan for compost because of the trees that had not been losing their leaves until very late in the season. So what we were going to do was continue to pick up. We'll do leaf pickup until about the second week in December. And then after that, when the guys do their chipping every other week, they can pick up any remaining bags if people have some leaves that they need to bag. We're not looking for like full-out yard raking of the entire lawn in January, but hopefully people understand what we're getting to. And then there would be no bag pickup in February, March, and then waste management would resume in April 1st. So what we'd like to do is just put that in the newsletter as the plan, and then just tell people if the weather changes significantly, you know, we would always have the email update and Facebook to notify people, but it would just be helpful for the DPW and their scheduling with, you know, Christmas lights and everything else they have to do, to just kind of know what they're going to do. So that was what we brainstormed on with Kurt and his idea to pick up the bag. So we can give it a try and see if it works.
Good.
And then the only other thing was the SDPU funding. I think we mentioned at the last meeting that we did get awarded some funding for 2021, $350,000, and the project that they chose to award us the money for was Baker from Grand to Maine. But I think that Broad is more of a priority on the Broad and Third, the area of the truck route. So what I was going to have OHM do is figure out maybe doing kind of like what we did with Central, where we do a block at a time or 2 blocks at a time, as opposed to just getting an award for the entire Broad Street project. So that will change the plans, because I was thinking we would get funding in 2023, not 2021. So it does change slightly the plans we had discussed. So we're going to re-outline that and then bring that back to council to discuss. But I think that section of Broad and Third is in worse condition than Baker.
Don't we already have funding for Grand Main? Or is that just a,
We do have it, it's that 2021, $350,000, but I can switch it to Broad because we had also applied for Broad. as
are we
well.
gonna repave that anyway up Main Street? Or are we just gonna stop at Grand because of Steve?
No, we stopped at Grand because that was how far we got with the money we had.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so I'm looking at that unless anyone strongly disagrees. I think that it would make sense. I'd like to start with that block of Third, but there's the, in 2021 gives us hopefully enough time to deal with some interesting right-of-way and stormwater issues in that area. Oh, the only other thing was I got a call from Keith Flores, former sergeant, current lieutenant. And the sheriff's office is shooting a series of recruitment videos. You know, they're really struggling, like every law enforcement agency, at least in the state, with recruiting. And so they're filming these videos. So there's two things they'd like to do in Dexter. One would be just outside of Joe and Rosie's, where they would have like an interaction of a scene with children and kids and parents, and just like a talking scene in front of Joe and Rosie's. Then the other one that they wanted to do was a short foot pursuit scene. So the concept was they would shoot someone running, or this little scene through the alley, and then they would stop, and then they'd shoot a scene in the park, and then like splice it together. So nobody is running across the street or anything, but it would be a little bit in the alley by the bakery, and then a little bit in Monument Park. And that would basically be, the Joe and Rosie stuff would be between like 7 and 10, and then the rest of the day would be this other stuff at Monument Park and the bakery. So I didn't know if anybody had any issues with that. It doesn't, I mean, they're not really impacting traffic. There'd be no road closure.
What day is that?
It's the end of October. I don't have the exact date, but I think he said the 22nd, somewhere. Right, yeah, he's gonna get in there. Maybe you could, right, exactly. You could
I'm here every day.
Right. Yeah, you could get yourself in a scene.
My only comment would be it's a lost opportunity that they're not filming the foot chase scene in spring when the ducks are sitting on the nest.
Oh, right, yeah.
The geese,
Hear that
the geese
stupid
problem.
goose, Yeah, he said it would be filmed as different pieces and cut together so that it's not like a very lengthy pursuit.
I don't know, filming this year. I think you're sweet ass now.
Mr. Smith?
Do we have any updates on the scheduling of the website kickoff meeting?
Not yet. That's something I'm going to be working on here shortly. Been a little preoccupied with elections and absentee balloting.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Just a little.
A little bit.
Money a day.
What will they change the law?
Yeah, and everybody can get one, yeah, that'll be.
Mr. Cousins?
I heard that there was the only incident I heard about in the roundabout, there was a truck that got in there and couldn't make the turn, so had to back up, and was caused quite a backup on Baker Road. Do we know anything about that?
No, I didn't hear anything about that. That seems hard to imagine
It is
because.
what it is.
Yeah.
Well, the dude's 53-foot trailer, he's trying to make a left on the Dan Alley. I can see him not cutting it enough.
Yeah, if he's not done it before.
Right, he's gonna come up on the island.
Good training.
That's what I
He's gonna dress
The
crazy.
sidewalk, come up on it.
Yeah, I wish I didn't hear about that.
Thank you.
What day did you know when that?
I know, I have no idea. My wife was in a meeting and had, somebody said that was what had happened. And the backup, I don't know if one of them was in the backup or what, but
The funny story I have is on Friday night, I was coming from the community garden towards the school, at the wrong time at 6:45, just before the football game.
Yeah, nobody coming to the game.
And I think Mr. Babineau was standing in the center of the roundabout, right next to the flowers with a sign holding, saying parking towards the bus loop. There were so many people looking for, with the juggernaut of a football team that we have now. There's people everywhere.
they're actually starting to come to the game, right? Yeah.
There were a lot of people. And anyway, he was standing in the center of the roundabout with a sign basically saying additional parking this way.
I saw a sign that was there, it said additional parking, they must have finally got tired and stuck in the ground.
Yeah.
So,
We'll have to find out, hopefully nobody gets hit standing in the middle of the parking roundabouts, but never occurred to me that somebody would, well, he was out just outside, he didn't want to disrupt the flowers.
He should be okay there.
Another question on the general updates under Dexter Chamber of Commerce. So are they changing the way they operate, having an executive director?
I don't know, I noticed that that's what it said on our business card, and I didn't want to say like that.
Was that
But,
meeting?
right, so, but she seemed very, yeah, I mean, she has a lot of hours, I mean, every day is a lot of hours, for 4 hours. So, but that definitely was off of her business card, because I made a note of that actually to Justin, that that's the first time I've seen that term applied to someone at the chamber in, what, a good 5-6 years, so.
Because I remember the one letter we got, they were reorganizing.
Yeah.
And
So hopefully, I mean, she seemed, their staff met her too, very excited about, she was already laughing about the calls that she had received and what people think that the chamber should be able to do.
where is the office?
It's still in the Blue Water Building.
Okay.
So, yeah, she see if anyone has any thoughts or things that you think, I mean, she sounded, very interested in getting involved in the community. Her background is in business development. She was kind of more on the business side. I'm trying to remember exactly what she said, but she has experience dealing with like local business or small business and stuff, which I thought was good.
Thank you.
Yeah. It was nice of her to stop up. I didn't realize they hired someone.
Other thoughts or questions for Courtney? Okay. I don't have anything to add to my report. I was going to talk about the facility discussion with, or the meeting with Norfolk Development as it relates to facilities, but I covered that under Michelle's report, and I told my funny story of the roundabout under Courtney's. So, does anyone have any questions for me on anything? Okay. Great, we will move over to consent agenda.
I move we approve the 2 items listed on the consent agenda. Bills and payroll in the amount of $337,823.03, and the setting up 53 hours for the 31st from 5:30 to 7:30.
Motion by Fisher,
Second.
second by Knight, thank you both. All those in favor of approving the 2 items on the consent agenda, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries. We have no old business, so we'll move on to new business. First item of new business is consideration of appointment of a city assessor.
I'll make that motion that we appoint Marie Sherry as our city assessor.
Second.
Motion by Fisher, second by Smith. Courtney?
One comment real quick before I do this. In the bills and payroll, the $119,000 for municipal employers retirement, that is our OPEB payment for the year, so that was what that was. I didn't mention that in my report, but we usually make that at the first meeting in October, so that's our OPEB. Yeah, so staff has debated this issue going on, 3 months now? And as you recall, we received a proposal from another contracted company, but the cost went up like 50% or very significantly, we thought. And for that price, with having someone in the office 8 hours a week, it just really didn't feel right. So Marie had earned her level 2, which is actually all we technically need. They really like you to be a 3. They're almost trying to, some of the law changes they talked about with assessing would eliminate the 2 from being able to sign a roll. That hasn't taken effect. I don't think that will anytime soon. So, and Marie will be a 3, I think by May, you said, or June. Yeah, so it doesn't go too far into next year. Other staff has taken on additional roles. Justin will be going to the level 2 training, which is an in-person week-long training. So the self-study is kind of over a bunch of weeks, at your own pace. With that, it'll just be done in a week if he passes all the tests. So
No, it's 6 months, isn't it? Yeah, it's actually.
Oh, is it a week for 6 months? Or?
It's 9 Saturdays over 6
Oh, that's
months.
right. I knew it was like a week's, or, a little bit
sounds
over a week's worth of time.
Wow.
Yeah,
Plus online work as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that will be, we think the in-person might be a little bit like more educational, because there'll be stories and, you know, meeting people as opposed to the self-study. And then Brenda was gonna do the Michigan Certified Assessing Technician training, which is what Marie started with, which is like an MCAT, it's just to help with certain roles, yeah. So we think that we can make it work. We met about it again today with everyone, just to try to figure out, you know, how we can do things a little bit different to incorporate, you know, if Mike and Michelle are going out to do a final zoning compliance on a building, you know, can they gather the information that's needed to update the assessing system, those sorts of things. So if anybody has any questions, maybe you can let us know. But
Ms. Knight?
Compensation?
right now, we're not going to change that at this time. If we do anything, it would be in the next. We're going to, yeah, give it a shot and see how it goes.
Okay.
So as for the roads, we are a couple of staff that work in different fields. We pull some from here, some from there. Is that the goal eventually?
Yeah, so in here, it's really general fund, so it's not, it's all kind of coming from the same pool of money in general fund, but yeah, I mean, some of it would come out of assessing and some would come out of treasurer. That all is basically covered by the 1% administration fee.
And what's our 1% been these past couple of years?
I think that's like 120,000 or something.
So we're not losing money by doing this ourselves?
No, we gained Kristen's contract value of $36,000.
And these positions are not non-compatible?
No, we didn't have that check.
Thank you.
We think that it'll be compatible just because it'll help us to make sure that when something changes hands, you know, everyone's sort of involved in that all the way. You know, we've done that more with utility billing and trash and things like that, but now, you know, it's really kind of making it, you know, everyone really has to have a hand in when something changes.
I go up there.
Sure, please. Thank you for helping take on this challenge.
Oh, I'm just insane.
That's what everybody keeps telling me.
That's what everybody keeps telling me.
She was away picking up that award when they decided to do it.
Well, let's become my desk.
The one thing that we may have to do that concerns me just a little bit is the commercial industrial aspect of it, because I don't have that training until between March and June of next year. It's like the last, or March and May, like some of the last modules. But we have an offer of assistance from Troy. Justin talked to them, you know, like if we have any questions. I've already talked to the deputy assessor in Ann Arbor, and he's like, well, if you have any questions, let me know. I am gonna go to the county assessors meeting on Thursday, you know, and like with this training, I met the assessor for Grass Lake Township. So, I mean, we're starting to get resources that we think, also Green Oak, he said anytime we have any questions. So we're gathering the resources, I think, that will help kind of bridge that gap between where we are now and where we need to be. So
I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, the paperwork side, we can do.
That part's no problem.
It's really just some of the valuations of the partial construction that we know we're gonna have December 31st and figuring out how.
And I mean, the residential construction isn't really gonna be that hard. It's the daycare and the, you know.
If we get it wrong, I'm sure we'll hear about it.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Unless it's too low, in which case.
Then we won't hear about it. So.
Mr. Cousins?
Well, I agree with the last sentence there. It says that provide a consistent, stable, and excellent service to our property owners. What I'm worried about, if anything, to be worried about is that there be some of those commercial entities, those units, those like we've got already, and they'll take advantage of it, or they'll try to take advantage because they see, I should say a weak link, but maybe that's the best way I could describe it.
Oh, you're not the only one.
Okay, so that's my concern. And if we need help, I would hope that even we had to pay for help to get some advice in there, that we do that. We wouldn't try to just muddle our way through it and hope that we did the best, but that we really can focus on that. And I trust the staff to do that. If they that they can go out there and ask somebody or two coordinators, somebody to do it.
We try to want to do that.
Because it would probably save us money to spend $5,000 to have a consultant come in taxes, and somebody says, oh, look at what I got now. Okay.
Yeah.
And there are a couple companies out there that do just exactly what you're talking, just that little piece of it.
The commercial part is what I have my concern about.
And industrial.
Yeah. I mean, that's really, because The residential, I mean, it's mass appraisal, it's, you know, it's not as tricky as the business side.
And you'll be able to solve all the issues in regards to the health center.
Yeah,
Right, I'm gonna slap them all back on the roll.
Yeah, I had all the affidavits and letters and everything lately because we haven't had an assessor, so
Yeah.
when Scott needs an affidavit,
We
I
all
have
get
to
a,
sign
we all get a
it.
letter, we all get a personal letter. If I left the town.
Oh, no.
Oh, we
Why
didn't?
did you?
Oh, gosh, I feel honored.
Oh,
I
Yeah.
don't think
But
that
we'll
was
talk about that later, but
Oh,
that's,
okay.
Was
I
that?
mean, we can. You can ask me that.
No, that was in the, their magazine. That wasn't a personal letter. You got, yeah. That was,
Well, I got a personal letter from her.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, this was in their, an article in there, that magazine they send out like twice a
Right.
year.
Want to ask a question?
Yes.
So, as you take it over this position, we have certain benchmarks set in place to grade them?
Yeah, so what we have, I mean, basically our grade against is the tax, yeah, well, two things. One is just the tax calendar and the assessing calendar that are the deadlines set by the state. The second is that the whole county is going through their auditing review this year.
Okay.
So that will be a good.
well, next, 2019.
Right, 2019. So that's done every 5 years by the state.
And what happens with it, they call it the AMAR, you have some benchmarks that you have to meet. One of the things that we're gonna have to look at is, because this is like the second round of AMAR, so we need to do some research on what the first round of AMAR involved, just to make sure we're not messing anything up that was then, because we weren't a city then, so we weren't doing our assessment.
That would have been done by SIO and Webster.
Right, but I mean, their results would not have been relevant to us, so we gotta do that. And then if for some reason we weren't, we were not found adequate, it's just like all the everything else, you create a plan about how you're gonna fix it.
Okay.
And, you fix it and you move forward. So even if you,
Mitigation plan.
and assessors don't like to fail the AMR, obviously, nobody would want to. But it's not like the end of the world. I don't think it's gonna be a problem to you, Justin, just from looking at what it
I
is.
mean, they have
really-
checklists so that you
Yeah.
can compare, so it's not like you don't know what they're gonna ask.
Right.
It's like with the elections, they do the same thing, they do post-election audits, and you know what they're gonna look for, so you either do it or you.
But today we discussed, like putting together, well, for lack of a better word, like flow charts on how things are supposed to go and checklists, and that sort of thing.
Perfect.
So that we have, especially if somebody like if Brenda's doing this area, maybe entering in building permits, like a checklist about exactly what's supposed to go in there and how it's supposed to work.
Right, I'm just worried about, there's a series of checks and balances, you got X amount of days to do this, and I know as you coming in, and I couldn't be prouder of you, honestly, got it.
It's directed by the tax
But,
calendar, so.
well, you're gonna be running point on something that we've never run point on, so.
Yes.
I don't want you to have to take on an unusual amount of burden or criticism for something that you're unaware of, but you seem fairly aware of everything.
It's
At the
gonna
same
be-
time, I got to cede to my manager,
Yeah.
because ultimately, that's who I'm gonna yell at. Or
It's gonna be a
Steve Sherman,
burden. It's gonna be pretty hard on us, to be honest with you, especially between now and February.
Do you have,
Just because we're already 3 months behind, or 2 months behind, as we try to, grapple with how we were gonna deal with this, so.
and you
just
think you're
data
gonna
entry.
be able to, even though you're 3 months behind, you think you're still gonna be able to fulfill your duties in a concise and
I hope so. If not-
lawsuit way?
I mean, if not, I've got a whole lot of people to call on.
Right, I mean, that was.
Well, that's the other thing I really appreciate too,
Sharing.
that the sharing of the task is.
Like, for instance, and I already
It's dumped
mentioned
on
this
your desk.
in our meeting today to Justin, like in February, when I know I'll be going insane, we can plan in advance that he'll do payroll that month,
Okay.
because he already knows how to do it. So we'll work it out. It's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge.
It's kind of hard until you actually do everything on it. It's like one of those things, you just have to do it.
I
I mean,
mean,
it's not like we have to do it forever. I mean, if we try and it doesn't work out, I mean,
Well, that's my other question, that you got like a timeline there, you're gonna anticipate that you can say it's not gonna work out?
I would think
When
we
you
would
see
probably
Louis'
know.
hair pulled out, then.
Right, yeah.
I will
it's
definitely
too
know
late,
by
Paul.
March board of
Right,
review.
that's what I was thinking.
By March board of
So
review, we'll know if
we'll
it's
know
more.
pretty quick then, all right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
Because then we will have gone, because the summertime between March and like now is kind of your downish time when you go to field work and you do,
Right.
entering paperwork.
Yeah, you're coming right into,
You
coming right
know,
into
we're
it
coming into the crunch time now.
real fast.
Yeah, yeah.
All
So
right.
if we make it through this,
Well, if you make it through this, you can make it through anything, pretty much.
And if not, then we regroup and we figure out something else.
Good enough.
And I'll opine that structurally, many places, the assessing is separate from the permitting side. So what'll happen sometimes is the tax man will go out and he'll say, oh, there's a deck here, and then starts taxing for it. But there's never been any permits or inspections for the deck, and it just doesn't get to the other side.
Yeah.
Whereas having it work in the process, when the permit's done, that alerts everyone else down the line, look for this, and if you see it, it reduces the amount of duplication. So a lot of potential benefits once it gets.
Well, and that's one of the things we're kind of, Courtney and I are kind of hanging our hats on, is that we can get rid of some of that duplication, you know? And if we can get rid of, especially on the business side, some of that duplication of me having to collect on things that maybe as an assessor, we can work proactively, so I'm not suing these people, you know? Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully we get some of that done as well. Anyway. I'm about halfway through the training.
Thank you for being willing to take on the challenge, to all the staff, Justin. And have more titles than.
Right.
The business cards are gonna be 5 by 7s.
One of the kids that just flips out.
All right, we have, I think it's a good solution that staff's come up with. We have a motion by Fisher, second by Smith, is what I had recorded, to approve the recommendation from Ray to be our assessor. Please call the vote.
Tell.
Yes.
Cousins.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Michelle's.
Yes.
Knight. Keo.
Yes. Motion carries, thank you. New business item L2 is consideration of the AT&T Metro Act permit renewal.
I'll make that motion. And it's the permit through March 31st, 2024.
Motion by Smith,
I'll second.
and second by Knight, thank you both. Sorry, I was writing something down. Okay, yeah, so the motion through March 2024?
Yeah. So this is just a renewal of our very original Metro Act permit with AT&T. So.
Are we obligated to do this? Are we encouraged to do it? Are we
Basically, I mean,
forced to do it?
Yeah, I mean, it was when they changed the whole law and made it so
Right.
you could do the individual permits, and this covers, you know, their phone service, you know, so I don't think, like that, we haven't had any issues with this permit, you know, it's not.
This doesn't seem like, I don't know.
I'm not even sure the renewals have ever come to council before, to be honest, but I just tend to err on the side of.
It sounds like busy work.
Well, basically,
Yeah,
it
clearly
used to
it's
be
not.
it used to be, right, but it used to be
Sounds
every
like
2
every
years,
year
and at
or
least
2
now
years.
it's every 5 years. When I first got this, I thought that this was the renewal for the new one that we did for the
The other day, yeah.
telecommunications. Not the Verizon, but we did an AT&T one for them to do like Uverse, and that's different than this. This was the original phone service one, so.
They don't give us no money, right?
This, no, I mean, we get a Metro Act fee that's like a lump sum. The other one we did with the Uverse, we do get about $600 a quarter from, that's like a franchise fee. But this one is just part of our, we do get like a right-of-way Metro Act fee every year of about $25,000. So that's,
Okay. Any further questions? Ms. Jones, please call the vote.
Smith.
Yes.
Tell.
Yes.
Cousins.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Knight.
Yes.
Michelle's.
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Motion carries, thank you very much. New business item L3, consideration of selection of Nelson Tank as the consultant for the water tower project.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Cousins, thank you. Second by Ms. Fisher, thank you.
Is this the same one I did last time or the time before?
so the Nelson we've used most recently for our filter replacements.
Okay.
Dixon was the one that has done the water tower work the last time it was done, which I don't even know, it was before I was here. They've done inspections on it since.
Okay.
So this is our major project for the water system for this year, this fiscal year, the taking down and cleaning and repainting the interior of the tower, which, when has that ever been done?
Yeah. one time.
Yeah, yeah.
once
At least
inside,
once before.
so.
I don't want to know what you find inside, you're okay?
No, it's not, I mean, we've had it televised to know that it's not in bad shape, and we had valves so that they can drain the iron out of it, and so we have done things to the tower, it's just we haven't had a full takedown like this.
They used to tell me there were bats in the old one.
Bats.
Yeah, bats in the old one out on there.
I've heard stories from Bob Stacy.
There we
Calling
go.
out by
Probably
name.
put the
Yeah.
bats in there.
That's what I've heard, so I don't want to know.
Yeah, so it's exciting to get this done. It will be challenging because we'll have to go a month without the tower, but the work needs to get done. And
Oh, let's do it this summer.
we've now practiced for it several times.
Yes.
So how to run the system without it.
Run off pressure.
Yeah.
You know, so we have that, we did that a few years ago.
What's the
We
estimate
just
of
did it a few
downtime?
months ago.
Maybe at least a month.
Some years.
1 month?
Yeah.
Minimum?
1 to 45 days.
We're planning for April, is that right?
Yeah, and we will do advertising to encourage people, no sprinkler systems until the water tower's back online, because we don't need that.
Mr. Smith?
Should the motion include the not to exceed amount?
It can, yeah, the
Yes, please.
19,300.
I can do that.
And so council will award the bid for the actual work. So, we'd like to get that out so we can get it all set and planned and get the contractor
This
on
has
board.
been in motion for a good many years, so.
Yeah, it got pushed back because of the filters.
No, I know.
But that was a priority, so.
I mean, this is a lot of really good preventative maintenance. They're doing a great job with the water system.
Well, at least we're addressing it, we just let it sit there.
We actually got a compliment today from the car wash who said that since the tornado, they noticed the water quality being much, much better since they rebuilt.
Water what?
The water quality being much better.
Are you sure that's was?
Well, I don't know that they reran their water lines, so. But that's really when we started doing the more intensive flushing and valve turning and all that to run that
Well,
same
we
time.
got all the iron out of the clear well.
That
the
was around that time,
filters,
yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot of.
But it was nice of them to say that, I mean, too.
Flushing, valve turning. A lot of good stuff.
Filters.
Yeah, the amount of iron that we see now coming out of them filters is minute compared to what we were going on before. And saving us on backwash times, we can go longer with it. And I mean, it's just all around a lot better quality.
Stuff like that should be included in the newsletter.
It is, yeah, I have a lengthy article on the improvements to the,
Yep.
both for PFAS and stuff we've done to the water system since 2009.
Right.
Other questions for Courtney or Dan? Seeing none, please call the vote.
Tell,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Keel.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. New business item L4, consideration of setting a public hearing on October 22nd this year to consider an ordinance allowing the city to lease property located at 8040 Main to Hotel Hickman for a term of 3 years.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Fisher. Second by Smith, was it?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you both. Courtney, would you like to provide any explanation, or is there any explanation needed over once here? So it's 80/50, right?
Yeah, I don't know why the agenda's so wrong, but it's 80/50 and it's 2 years, so it's really weird, but the term of the lease is 2 years. I don't know why I think that's so very wrong, but the ad will go in the paper and it goes in this week. Because technically, according to the charter, we should do it by ordinance, so. I did talk to Scott, I had given him the lease a while ago. He hadn't looked at it, but he didn't imagine having a lot of issues with it. So I don't think it's gonna change much.
Is there an increase from? last?
Yeah, it's minor, it's like $10 a month. I just increased it a little, so I think it goes from,
25 for a month, and then for the first year, and another 10 after that.
yeah, it goes, right now it's $665 a month. Yeah, it
Oh,
goes
I'm
from
sorry.
$665 to $675, and then $675 to $685,
Okay.
so.
Got rid of the 659, got it.
Well, it is a nice location.
Well, yeah, it seems to be working at all.
I'm sorry, Paul.
I thought, do we know what this property is worth?
I mean, we would have an assessed value on the tax roll, but like a true cash value, we've never had it appraised.
It's not really taxable because we own it, right?
Oh, no, we pay taxes on it because we lease it.
Co-leasing, okay, so, do we know what it is?
I want to say, yeah, it's like, well, the taxable value is very low because of course we've owned it forever, but,
And have we ever had it assessed?
no, we have never had an appraisal done on it, if you do that, yeah.
So, that's what I got.
Yeah.
So, I guess this is, again, here now where he's done this a number of times. Has there ever been an offer to have him to say, would you like to buy it, unless we have no other desire to use that piece of property for anything?
We talked about that a little bit 2 years ago when he signed the lease, but he wasn't ready to do that, and I don't know if council was necessarily ready to do that either, and I know he just opened that new business in, yeah, so I didn't bring that up this time, just because when we talked about it briefly, when I brought this up the first time, council didn't seem super sold on the idea of selling it, so.
If somebody came along and said, I'd like to buy that piece of property and put something else there,
Oh, something else there.
that would be then another discussion, right?
Yeah, because of, I know it's historically significant to
Yeah, I got it.
people.
But that means it can't be moved. It has been moved.
It has been, right?
Just a question, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're officially setting the public hearing.
Yeah, and then council can
The
consider
council
the
can
lease.
consider it at that time. Okay, to set the public hearing? Let's call the vote.
Knight,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Tao,
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Motion carries. New business item L5, consideration of payoff of $190,000 in outstanding principal on the 2006 facility bond.
So moved.
Moved by Smith, thank you.
Second.
Second by Michelle, thank you also.
So this is just follow-up from an item from our budget work session where we talked about, we have to pay off half of that bond for the facilities because of selling the land to DTE. But since we have enough cash to pay off the entire thing, I think it just makes sense to get rid of it completely. So I show where the funds will come from to do that, general fund, the facility bond fund, where we had put away some of our local community stabilization revenue, and then some also excess funds in our general obligation bond fund, which remains perpetually open until we deal with the wellness center, or have final decisions on the wellness center. So because this isn't something we've really ever done before, I know we had talked about it in the budget work session, but I just felt more comfortable having official approval, and there will be a little bit of interest cost to the day that we call the bonds, but that will just come out of the revenue we have this year for the bond payments. So it'll probably be around $4,000, I think, for.
Much less than the $40,000 we're saving in the facility.
Yeah, much less than that. It'll just be how it calculated from the day of the last bond payment. And like I said, the official budget amendments will be on the next agenda, and then I assume the transaction will occur. I think it's a 30-day notice, so the actual transaction would occur at some point in November.
Sounds good to me. Any questions for Courtney?
$25,000 a year for 9 years? So what's that? 225 and then 265.
Okay, please call the
Good
vote.
move.
Cousins,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Tao,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you, motion carries. We are down to council comments this evening, starting with Mr. Michelle's, if you are ready, sir.
Yep. The CapStart folks at our last meeting decided that there was interest in focusing more on housing and also transportation. 2012, the group kind of prepared with Watt's assistance some transportation plan. It didn't have a lot of teeth and it was tough to really get enacted, so if you have any thoughts on how that can be a useful document for this body, let me know. We've got a meeting coming up to kind of kick that off with Suzanne Flowers of Watts, whatever the 4th Wednesday of October is. And that is it.
Thank you.
What's that?
It's the 4th Wednesday of October?
4th Wednesday of October at 7.
24th, I think that would be,
Yeah.
because the 4th Monday is the 22nd.
7?
At 7 at the Wave offices on Jackson.
Thank you.
Ms. Knight?
I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Ms. Jones?
Nope, nothing today.
Ms. Fisher?
No, I'm fine with you.
Mr. Tell?
I regret to inform my fellow council members that October 22nd will be my last meeting as a council member. Hereby, turning in my resignation, I've picked up another opportunity to work somewhere else. Unfortunately, they are afternoon and evening shifts. So I will no longer be allowed to continue my service, which has been close to 25 years. So come on, somebody else step up. So that gives everybody approximately 5 weeks before the 12th, which is our, literally 3 weeks after I hand in my resignation, for you to go around, see if there's people you know, see if there's other people that are interested. There's an abundance of people in town that are more than qualified. I can name 5 right now off the top of my hand. I know several people on the planning commission. I know past ZBA members, and there's a plethora of people to be available. I hate to leave you all hanging, but things go on. I ain't never done nothing spectacular other than take the advice of what was given to me by the administration. Any idiot can do this job. Take your advice, take it to heart, do what's best for the village now and in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray, you're gonna be missed.
Yeah, I doubt it.
You'll probably shave every day, right?
Yeah, that's first thing, plus see, I don't have to get up till like 12 now.
Right, yeah, that's exactly perfect.
Get up in the middle of the night.
Mr. Cousins?
I don't know how to feel about that. I've been with this guy for an awful long time.
Been a long time,
A
Paul.
long time, but he sure has, and I appreciate all his commitment. We haven't always agreed with everything, but we've certainly come close most of the times, and I just think that a lot of people don't recognize the commitment that a person has to have. It's not just this meeting that you meet, twice a month. It's all the other meetings that you're in there. And thanks, Ray, from the bottom of my heart and from this community for all the work you've done.
Well, you don't do this job for the glory, because there ain't no
Oh,
glory
you don't?
to it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
for the free parking, right?
No, all you do, the only reason you do it is get both people on both sides equally mad. Are you mad? Are you mad? Fine. Everyone's equally mad. I've accomplished my goal. Treat everyone the same, crappy. Don't lie.
That was a
Never have to remember what you
campaign,
said.
Aren't you glad you guys are sitting over there?
Just
Okay.
There is
philosophy.
a vacancy filling procedure in council rules, so if anyone has their council rules, we can dust that off. And
This gives you approximately 5 weeks to go through everybody you know,
I
feel your way around, get the process established, rather than just running out on it at the last minute, so. This is a long month, it'll be 5
There,
Mondays.
you're right, there is a one. Yeah, and I think there's a procedure for advertising it, and that's a little.
I wanted to give as much time as I could. I tried to figure out, they're gonna train me on days, but I have no long, that's a 2-week, 4-week, 1 week.
So if it does say to like advertise and all that, should I do that, or do I need to wait till?
My
the next meeting?
resignation is gonna be my resignation.
No, I'm just asking the rest of them, do you want me to follow whatever procedures in there, or wait until after the next meeting?
I'd probably look it up and give everybody a heads up.
I think I just read through this. I don't believe that there is a posting requirement. I think if it's less than 30 months before the next election, then council can vote to appoint someone.
Right, no, but I'm saying there's a procedure in council rules
Oh, in
that
council
spells
rules,
out
yeah.
how to fill a vacancy that we created the last time we had a vacancy, which was like 11 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So it's been a while since I paid attention.
Well, I think it's about 24 months, so.
Yeah, I think we'll probably advertise, but let's just read it and we'll figure that out.
It'll have to be what it has to be, so.
Yeah, and that's.
I am but one
that's
lonely vote. I'm hardly the deciding factor.
For your last day of the next meeting?
My next meeting will be my last meeting,
Official.
because I start my
Cake
following
next
job
Okay.
on, no cake next week.
Richard wants.
Would you like an answer?
So nobody wants to move the meetings to 7:30 in the morning?
Donna would definitely be on for that, right?
I do it for Ray. I would do that.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
I just looks with a lot of stuff. There's a multitude of people that can do this job. And I think I've grown comfortable, and maybe we've all grown a little too comfortable. Because I've been doing it for probably since the 90s, somewhere in the 90s, maybe early 90s, I don't even know anymore.
We'll look it up for the special thing.
Yeah, fine.
I put it a couple times. Spike.
All right. Is there anyone under non-arranged that would like to speak this evening? Okay, seeing none, as I flip to page 4, we do have a closed session plan. See the motion to go in if we still need to, or want to.
So moved.
Moved by Smith to go in. Support. Second by Cummings. Vote. Ms. Jones, would you please call the vote to go in at 8:41 or whatever it is?
Knight,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes?
Smith, Cousins,
Yes.
Keel.
Yes. And point of clarification, city staff is invited to stay.
Yes.
Yeah,
He's already out here.
Yeah, the last time you had the motion, I
Right.
included all the names that were in there, so
Correct.
as the part of the motion.